My most recent book, called A Piece of My Mind, is based on a text that my mother gave me as a young boy. And of course, there's a pun on the word peace. Sometimes in England, we would say, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind, which means I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about the peace of God that passes understanding. I have a particular interest, obviously, in the World War because I was a boy when it started, age 9. I was 15 when it ended. And during that war, which obviously took place during the formative years of my life, there were many, many lessons I learned. My memories of the Second World War would have to do primarily with the bombing. I remember as a boy watching the bombing from the top story of my home, and an artillery officer standing there with me, showing me how to time the distance between the flash and the reverberation. In the early days, we used to huddle down in an air raid shelter, and that was very frightening. My parents were very, very solid believers, and they instilled in me as a small boy, even when my brother and I were very, very frightened with the bombing and all this kind of thing that was going on, fear of the invasion that was imminent, they instilled in us a tremendous sense that God was on the throne and that He would work out His purposes. I have written about many of these wartime boyhood experiences in a book I recently produced called A Piece of My Mind. Every time a bomb exploded, the room in which we were standing became brilliant with light, and on the wall was a text that my mother had placed there. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. One of the interesting stories about Churchill is that in the depth of the war, sometimes he would go missing from the war rooms. And in the middle of the night, they would get very, very concerned about him, go looking for him, and find him in St. James's Park feeding the ducks. It was rather interesting that this man, with all the burdens resting upon his shoulders, found relaxation in the quietness and the simplicity of feeding the ducks. I think sometimes in our frantic, frenetic world, we need to know what it is to find the places of tranquility and feed the ducks. And that famous text that my mother gave me simply states the fact that God is perfectly capable of giving us a deep-rooted sense of well-being, even in the midst of circumstances that would generate all kinds of anxieties. And what we need to recognize is this, that if our idea of finding some peace of mind and peace of heart is predicated on us eradicating all the negatives in life, frankly, we're never going to know peace. If, on the other hand, we can know the deep-rooted sense of the tranquility of order that comes from ordering our lives according to the orders of an orderly God, then we can know peace in the midst of all kinds of stress-inducing circumstances. An example of that, of course, comes from the teaching of Jesus, when He said, in the world you will have trouble, but in me you will have peace. That's basically what my book, A Piece of My Mind, is all about. I think you'll enjoy it.